When you decided to make the pivot from AVOD to FAST, what technological changes did you need to implement? And could you talk a little bit about the decisioning process? I mean, by the time you made that pivot, you had a little bit more money, but I assume you were still, you're still very much in that startup mode, even though you'd been around a number of years. Talk about the decisioning process. Talk about the technologies that you explored and ultimately decided what you built yourself versus what you perhaps turned to third parties for.
Right. So, we go back to customers, and in our formative years, our ratings were not great. 2.5 stars, 3 stars. It was pretty bad. And the feedback was buffers too much, keeps buffering, right? So we're doing client side stitching, which means that every clip that gets loaded has to buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a fraction of a second, it's still a pause in between the video, whether it's the video itself. We also had to integrate with programmatic ad technologies that were built for pre-rolls.
Mm-hmm.
The mid-roll ad insertions on the client side was just not that great. You'd also wait a minute, see the spinner, wait for that ad to come back from the networks, and then play it back. And it was just a very clunky experience. And we thought to ourselves, well, again, we looked at technologies, OVPs on the market at the time, and some of them were capable, but they were still outside our price range. They were demanding per channel fees and kind of platform fees that we still couldn't afford. We just literally weren't able to put the money down to take in the services, and so we decided to build it ourselves. So what we did was we started to figure out, how do we compose these linear streaming channels, virtual live linear channels. We took a look at all of the specifications, the HTTP live streaming spec. Everyone's pretty familiar with HLS. Mm-hmm. And we started to concept out, stitching VOD assets together on the server side with those specs. And once we proved that we could do that, then we knew we were onto something, and we were able to start expanding on that principle. We built our kind of ad proxy, ad insertion systems. We had the video stitcher. We had our CMS, all the pieces that we needed, and then we needed to upgrade our clients. And what actually was simplifying a lot of the clients is what having all that code doing client-side stitching made the clients quite a lot bulkier. And we tried to normalize on web technologies, but again, at the time, these web views were inconsistent, particularly on the Android platform. There were too many generations of web views, and we couldn't support all of it. We tried, and we built our own Chromium layer on top of Android, the Android app, just to be able to try to render all of the elements of video that we need to render. And it took a lot of time, but once we got to the server side stitching and everything was a single stream, and the video player could load that and play it back seamlessly, there's no pausing in between assets. You just had a brief moment of spin up on the front end, and everything else was just streaming. There was adaptive bit rate, all the things that we needed to improve our experience. We were able to build that in just about 6 months.